So welcome again. This is question 5 of the June 2021 paper. June 2021 paper, question 5. Modern organizations are adopting result-based approach to improve employee productivity. Formulate the guidelines for developing this approach. Modern organizations are adopting result-based approach to improve employee productivity. Formulate the guidelines for developing this approach. So result-based approach is where the organization is interested in the deliverables, the end result. What are you giving them as the end of everything? So we have the process and then we have the results. So we are saying that modern organizations are adopting the result-based approach. They want the deliverables, the output. They are so much interested in the output to improve as a way of improving the employee productivity. They use the output as a way of improving the employee productivity. What are some of the guidelines for developing this approach? Number 1, stakeholder analysis. Now, for you to use this approach, you must involve the stakeholders. So the stakeholders in this case could be even the employees, could be the outsiders. What do they want? What do they want solved? What is their problem? So it is that problem that is supposed to be solved, and it is that problem that will determine the output or the end result that they want. So it's very important that you involve the stakeholders, you carry out a study, you identify what their problems is, so that you may know what really is it that they want solved. Without them, you may not get it right. They are the people who have issues to be solved. So involve the stakeholders, analyze them, and identify their problems well. So that is I might call that the second, actually, identification of the needs and problems. So identify the stakeholders, or you can also call this mapping, stakeholder mapping, where you identify the stakeholders. A stakeholder is anybody who is interested in what you are doing, who is affected, or who affects. So long as there is that relationship, then he becomes a stakeholder. What you do can influence, or what he does can influence that relationship. If it exists, then he's a stakeholder. So do some stakeholder analysis or mapping, identify who the stakeholders are, then identify their needs and their problems. Once you determine their needs and the problems, now you can use that information to determine the performance framework. How will I go about trying to solve that need or problem? That is the performance framework. Can you come up with a methodology, a way that you are going to use to solve this need or problem? So come up with a framework, and you also need to come up with the indicators. Indicators. These are very key, especially on the indicators, to show that you are progressing well with the performance framework. This performance framework can also, it's like an implementation matrix. So what are the indicators to show that you are progressing? That should be the step number 4. Finding indicators and developing performance measurement frameworks. Indicators and measuring. So measurement of performance management framework. So determine performance framework. How am I going to fulfill these needs and problems? And then how will I know that I'm fulfilling? You need something to show you that you are in the right progress. Those are the indicators. Indicators are the measurables. Something that, you know, that thing which will, jobs, we call them the key performance indicators. What will show you that you are on the right track? There must be some measurement, and there must be some units that will be used to show that you are in the right progress. Even if it's reports, at what intervals will we need the reports to show that we are actually in the right progress? So there must be something that will be used to catapult to show you that indeed you are on the right track. So indicators and measurement of performance management framework. So after we come up with the way of solving this problem, can we come up with ways to measure our performance rate? So that if we achieve, it's a plus for us. If we don't achieve, then it means we need to take some corrective measures. Then number 5, identifying assumptions, and analyzing risk factors, And this is just to make sure that our aim is to achieve the results. So we need to know the assumptions underlying this, and the assumptions are things that we hold constant, and at least do everything possible to make sure that they are actually there, those assumptions. Otherwise, if we lose the assumptions, it simply means that we may not achieve the plan. These risks that we have mentioned here are the likely loopholes that will affect the assumptions. So we need to come up with the risk factors, analyze them, and manage them well in advance so that it doesn't interfere with our assumptions. And that is the only time we'll be assured of achieving the output that we so badly want to achieve, which is what will be used to improve employee productivity. So that is it. Let's hear from the stakeholders. Let's first of all identify the stakeholders. Let's hear from them what they want. Let's come up with a methodology of how we are going to develop what they want. Let's come up with performance indicators to talk to us to know if you are in the right track or not. And then let's strive to ensure that the assumptions are constant. What we held as our assumptions are constant, and manage the risk so that it's very much possible for us to achieve the output that we desired, which will eventually improve the employee productivity. These are the guidelines for developing the result-based approach. 10 marks, 2 marks each. Question 5B. Examine evaluation designs used in human resource programs assessment. Evaluation designs. And evaluation is how we fared on in terms of the assessment. To examine evaluation design used in human resource programs assessment. We want to assess the human resource program, how successful they have been. What are some of the evaluation designs or assessment designs? So, number 1, we can talk of the obvious one, which we are very much familiar with. We have the MBO, management by objective. It's an evaluation design where we have the predetermined objectives, and then we compare them with the actual results and see how far we fared. Management by objectives. Everybody has an objective. Those are what we call the predetermined objectives. And then, of course, you perform the job. And as you perform, we measure the actual results. So then we'll compare the actual results versus the predetermined objectives. If there's a gap, then it means you've not performed well to the extent of that gap. Or if you have surpassed the expectation, it will show. So it's one of the evaluation designs used in human resource program assessment to see if it was the human resource program was successful or not. We can use MBO. Have we achieved our set objectives? If yes, perfect. If no, then we also have this 360-degree review. 360-degree review. This is where we collect this information from various stakeholders, actually all the stakeholders whom we engage with in the process of our job. So you can say 360-degree review or feedback, 360-degree review or feedback. And this is where we collect information from all stakeholders, So they will tell us whether we have we are doing well or if we are not doing well. It's one of the ways of evaluating, and it will help us assess the effectiveness of our programs. Then we also have the cost accounting, HR cost accounting, or just accounting. It can also be used to evaluate or assess the success of the human resource programs through the cost-benefit analysis. And this is where we compare the cost we incurred versus the benefit we incurred. Of course, if the benefit outweighs the cost, it is good. But if the cost outweighs the benefit, it is bad. So HR cost accounting, 360-degree, where we get feedback from all the stakeholders and they will tell us how they feel about us. We have management by objectives, where we compare the actual results versus the predetermined objectives, what we had anticipated to get. Those are 3. Then number 4, we have assessment centers. Assessment centers, where we get out of our comfort zone and go in an open place where people can freely interact with us and get to know, or like this program, we put it out in the open among others, and people can question it and see how successful it has been. So that one is an assessment center. We go with present it with among other programs, and of course it's assessed, and then we know how it has fared on. If it's good compared to the rest, if it's bad compared to the rest, that will be one of the ways that can also be used to evaluate. So assessment centers, where we take the program to an assessment center with amongst others, and then it is evaluated with the others also. Then we have the lastly field review. And field review, though this is time consuming. It's time consuming. Field review, that's why you put it into exercise. It's time consuming. That is the weakness of this style, the field review style. But it's also a design that is used especially in assessing the how practical the idea is. So you put it in the field and you see if it can give you the desired outcome. So that is called a field review. It's also one of the assessment tools, and it's used to see the success to measure the success of the program, especially if it's practical or not. So these are the 5 evaluation designs that you can use when assessing human resource programs. How effective they are, how practical they are, how good they are. Yeah. So any 5 attracting, the 5 will be attracting 2 marks each. That will give you 10 marks. Thank you. Let's meet in the next question.